guys, it's France, week 74 of the Journal on Monday series, and I'm starting a brand new journal today. For those who follow me on my Facebook page, you already know that I've been spending some quality time with my sweet friend Finna Bear, and of course I couldn't come back home without some of her yummy toys. This is her mixed media journal, and I'm starting by taking it completely apart so that I can put it back together the way I want to have it. And I want to start with this craft paper, and of course you have to stroke it a bit before you start playing with it. I also got myself some trinkets, vintage trinkets, and some mechanicals, and to give them my twist I had to rust them. This is a piece of the kitchen roll that I used to dry it on, and I will be playing on a piece of watercolor paper that I will glue on my craft paper in the end. So just gluing my kitchen roll down using the Décopatch glue, and I'm being very careful as this paper is really thin and it's really porous, so I have to be careful not to tear it when I'm gluing it down, and I don't want big smudges of glue coming through, so being careful once more. Playing this way was a bit of a discovery, or I should say a rediscovery, because I'm so used to play in my Coptic binded journals or in my moleskins, where all pages are binded together, that I forgot the liberty you have when you play on a free piece of paper that you will be gluing in afterwards. It really takes away a great deal of the stress of messing up the other pages that you already did, and it gives you a lot of freedom of movement with your paper. I really forgot how much fun that is. So once my paper is glued down, I added some Décopatch glue on top of it to seal the rusting, because this is only a mark on the paper left by the metal when it was rusting, and I don't want this to fade away later on, so I'm using my Décopatch glue as a seal too. I'm adding bits and pieces of paper here and there where I think the roll isn't interesting enough, and I can go on as much as I want. I can add as many layers as I want to add. I also had the question on my Facebook page by someone about the rusting. What I do is I place my metal pieces in a bath of water with vinegar. I don't have measurements because I just pour the product in and that's it. I do add quite a lot of vinegar, and first I leave it in there for a complete night, and then the day afterwards I take it out, leave it to dry, put it back in, take it back out, and so on. Once it has enough rust on it, I put it in a bath of water with salts. But when I do this, I only leave it for a couple of minutes, because the salt is way more aggressive than the vinegar, and it might eat all the vinegar rust away. Meanwhile, in the video, I got a piece of fabric out, which is done by Untitled Chapter. You can find all the details of the ingredients on my blog as usual. And after a bit of distress ink on the edges, I'm gluing it down on my page. Now that this is done, I can take out my sewing machine and sew the pocket in place. I really liked the background, so I wanted to add as little as possible on top of it and leave it really visible. Adding some touches of color. This is fluid acrylic by Golden and Acrylic Glazing. And I'm adding the acrylic glazing and this diluted pigment because I only want some hints of blue. I don't want that blue to stay on top of my background. Doing it this way, it will really blend with the background. And I'm applying it on top of the checkered stencil, again by Finnebear. Well, you'll have to get used to it. Now that I have some of her toys, I will be playing with those. And then I'm looking how I want to place my metallic pieces. This is a tag I made during one of my tag art journal classes, and I will be using this one for the pocket. I had to trim it down a bit, so I'm adding my border again and then folding it so that it fits nicely inside the pocket. To attach the vintage trinkets, I use a fastener. Again, this is one of the advantages of working on a free sheet, is that you can do whatever you want in the back. It won't affect in any way the next page you might do. And then I'm gluing the centerpiece, which is mechanical, with matte accent. Now, for those of you who watched last week's video where I did the weaving, I will be using the other sides of the weaving in an upcoming video when I will be tired of playing with all my Finnebear new toys, which might take a while. Getting my wording ready, and this week it says should, would, could, did, and the 3 first words will be crossed. Adding some distress ink on the edges of my wording. I've only been using vintage photo ink, this one, and then placing down some washi tape as a layer underneath the wording. Adding some cambric, which is a kind of fabric, and if you got one of my kits, one of the Stashed and Prompted kits, well, you did have a piece of cambric with it. And then I'm also adding just a tiny strip of plaster. These are all little bits and pieces that I had left over and laying on my desk. And for those who didn't get a kit, I will have some new ones as soon as I get a new order from the retailer. So crossing the 3 first words, and then gluing everything in place, just using tacky glue. A lot of people tell me they don't like tacky glue because it takes quite some patience to use it. Well, I have to disagree. If you keep it laying down on your desk like I do, it really is quite easy to use, and well, it's my favorite. It glues anything on anything. I only use the matte accents when I go for something really dimensional. I'm adding an eyelet to my tag so that it also has a piece of metal and that it works with the rest of my page. And I'm placing the eyelet using Big Bites. This is my design cube by Stamp Boutique, and I almost always use it in shadow stamping. So as you could see, I took ink and then first stamped on my craft sheet before I went in stamping on the paper. adding some journaling using black and white uniball pen. And then adding the date stamp. I decided to add a little heart on the butterfly so that I also had a bit of a very warm color on my paper. This Journal on Monday video took about an hour to tape, and I had to keep it quite simple as it is a school holiday over here and I have my 2 kids running around. So I did try to keep it simple. And I add a touch of glimmer glaze, which is the icicle one on the heart, to make it pop even more. Adding some doodling around the wording so that it stands out too. After I glued my paper on the craft paper, I decided to add a paper clip around the date, and this also gives an edge on the bottom of the spread. I'm also adding some glimmer glaze on the wording, again to make it stand out. Now, because the paper clip is quite dimensional, it's not only a paper clip, it's a rusted paper clip, so it's even more dimensional. I added a little glue dot to make sure my paper would stay in place, and I added some stitching all around the spread. Voila, that's it for today. I hope you like this simple spread. Before I sign out, I want to show you how I reassemble my journal. To keep the binding of the wire invisible, you have to start with the inside pages and you go from the back to the front. So I want my plastics to be in the back, so I put those on the wire first, then the white paper, and then the craft paper, because I want the craft paper in the front of my journal. Once this is done, I place the front cover, and then I place the back cover front to front with the front cover, if this makes any sense. So that when I close the rings, the closing of the wire is inside the journal in the back. Et voilà! And as I do have some pockets in this journal, I can even keep my wording in my journal instead of keeping it separately. I never thought I would like a journal with a wire, but actually I do. Hope you liked today's video. See you back next week. Have a happy one.